The bailiff called the case in a flat voice, like he was reading items off a receipt. Before the last word landed, Laura Price stood up. Not to honor her grandfather. To claim him. She wore a cream coat over black, sharp and expensive, the kind of outfit that told the room she expected to win. Her hair was flawless. Her face showed no tears. When she looked at Emma Price, there was no sadness, only calculation. Laura's lawyer slid a thin stack of papers onto the table. "Your Honor," he said smoothly, "we move for immediate transfer of the estate to my client, effective today." Behind Laura, her parents nodded together, practiced and calm. Emma watched them and felt the old pressure tighten. The judge didn't look at the papers first. He looked at Emma. "Miss Price," he said evenly, "do you object?" Laura's mouth twitched, waiting for Emma to fold. Emma straightened her back and placed her hands flat on the table. "Yes," she said. "I object." Laura's lawyer smiled. "On what grounds?" he asked, already confident. Emma didn't rush. "Not yet," she said. "I want to wait until the last person arrives." The judge blinked. "The last person?" he repeated. Laura laughed once, sharp. "This is ridiculous," she said. "There is no one else." Emma's father, Richard Price, leaned toward her. "You always do this," he muttered. The judge adjusted his glasses. "This is probate court, Miss Price," he said. "If you have an objection, it must be legal." "It is," Emma replied calmly. "It just isn't mine to explain." Laura's lawyer stepped closer. "Your Honor, my client is the responsible party. Assets need protection." Emma heard the word responsible and remembered how it was always used to take control. "Who are we waiting for?" the judge asked. Emma met his eyes. "The person who actually controls the inheritance," she said. Laura opened her mouth, then stopped. The courtroom doors opened quietly. A man in a plain black suit walked in, holding an envelope. "No jewelry. No hurry." He went straight to the clerk. "Miss Price," he said, reading Emma's name. Then he placed the envelope down. "For the court," he added. "From the trustee." The judge paused, took the envelope and frowned at the return address. He opened it slowly, like it mattered. The judge read, then read again. "This is a notice of trust administration," he said. Laura stood up fast. "We're in probate," her lawyer protested. "Sit down," the judge replied. He kept reading. "Successor trustee identified, Northbridge Trust." The room shifted. The judge looked at Laura. "Did you know your grandfather created a trust?" Laura lifted her chin. "He was influenced," she said. The judge didn't argue. He turned the page. "This trust includes a no-contest clause," he said. "Any attempt to seize assets contrary to its terms triggers forfeiture." Laura went still. Emma didn't move at all. Laura's lawyer cleared his throat. "Your Honor," he said, standing again, "even if a trust exists, probate still has jurisdiction." The judge didn't look up. "Your motion requested all inheritance effective immediately," he said. "This document says most assets are outside probate." He tapped the page once. "That matters." Laura shifted in her chair. "He didn't understand what he signed," she said quickly. "He was old." The judge finally looked at her. "Age is not incapacity," he replied. "And this file includes a capacity affidavit." Laura's confidence cracked just slightly. Emma stayed still, her hands folded, her eyes on the judge. Laura's lawyer tried again. "We dispute the trust's validity," he said. "Then you'll file properly," the judge answered. "Not with shortcuts." He turned another page. "There's also a no-contest clause." The room seemed to shrink. "Any beneficiary who attempts to seize trust assets contrary to its terms forfeits their share." Laura's mother, Helen Price, inhaled sharply. "That can't be right," she whispered. The judge didn't respond to her. He looked straight at Laura. "Did you file this motion knowing that clause existed?" Laura opened her mouth. Closed it. Her lawyer spoke instead. "We received documents yesterday," he said carefully. The judge raised his eyebrows. "Yesterday," he repeated. "So you had notice." Silence followed. Emma felt it settle like dust. The judge leaned back. "That tells me this wasn't confusion," he said. "It was a gamble." Laura's jaw tightened. "I was trying to protect the family," she said. The judge's voice stayed even. Courts don't reward intentions, he replied. They enforce records. The man in the black suit stepped forward for the first time. Your Honor, he said calmly, Northbridge Trust does not recognize the petitioner's request. We will administer strictly under the trust terms. Laura turned toward him. You can't just— Enough, the judge said sharply. Laura stopped. The man continued unbothered. The trustee requests dismissal of the motion and a protective order against interference. Helen shook her head. Interference, she whispered. The judge looked at her. Accusations without evidence are interference, he said. The judge picked up his pen. The motion for immediate transfer is dismissed, he said. A sanctions hearing will be set. Laura's face went pale. So she gets everything, she snapped, pointing at Emma. The judge didn't flinch. No, he said. The trust controls distribution. Not you. Not her. He signed the order and looked up once more. Miss Price, he said to Laura, you walked in here certain you were in charge. Today proved otherwise. Emma finally exhaled, slow and quiet, as the room shifted against Laura instead of her. Laura didn't sit down right away. Her hands gripped the edge of the table as if the wood might steady her. Your Honor, she said suddenly, louder than before, I need to put something on the record. The judge looked at her over his glasses. What is it? He asked. Laura turned and pointed straight at Emma. Elder abuse, she said. The word landed hard. Helen's face softened instantly, grief switching on like a light. Richard leaned back, eyes narrowing as if this were the card he'd been waiting to play. Emma didn't move, but she felt the temperature in the room change. Laura's lawyer stood quickly. Your Honor, we request an immediate inquiry, he said. The respondent isolated the decedent, controlled access, and pressured him into signing documents. The judge leaned forward, not angry, not emotional. Those are serious allegations, he said. What evidence do you have today? Laura didn't hesitate. Witnesses, she said, gesturing toward the back. Two relatives stood awkwardly, eyes avoiding Emma's. Helen nodded at them, encouraging. The judge studied them briefly. Witnesses are not evidence by themselves, he said. Do you have reports? Medical records? Prior complaints? Laura's confidence wavered. He didn't want to embarrass the family, she said quickly. He was scared. The judge picked up the trust packet again. Then explain why he executed this trust with independent counsel and witnesses, he replied. That is not fear. That is planning. Richard's lawyer rose. We also believe Ms. Price controlled finances and communication, he said. Emma's attorney, Daniel Brooks, stood immediately. Objection, he said. Argument without proof. The judge nodded. Sustained, he said. Do you have that proof here today? Silence. Laura's lawyer hesitated, then said what everyone heard as retreat. We would request discovery. The judge's expression hardened. Discovery is not a fishing expedition, he said. You do not accuse someone of elder abuse in open court as leverage. Laura snapped. It's not leverage. The judge met her eyes. Then bring evidence, he said. Not stories. He turned to the man in the black suit. Does the trustee have any indication of abuse or undue influence? No, Your Honor, the man replied. The decedent met privately with counsel and confirmed intent. The judge nodded once, then added, the trustee also notes a written statement from the decedent anticipating these allegations. Laura stiffened. What statement? She demanded. The judge ignored her and took the page from the clerk. He read silently, then aloud. If you are reading this in court, he read, it means my family tried to take my estate by accusing my granddaughter. Helen gasped. Richard went still. Laura's lawyer slowly sat down. The judge folded the letter carefully. This court will not entertain manufactured abuse claims, he said. Not today. Not like this. Emma lowered her eyes, her grandfather's voice finally speaking where she never had to. Richard's lawyer stood again, slower this time. Your Honor, he said, we object to that letter as hearsay. The judge didn't hesitate. It's a statement of intent offered to show state of mind, he replied. And it aligns with independent evidence already in the record. He looked directly at Laura. This court is not going to allow an 11th-hour elder abuse accusation to override a formally executed trust. Laura's lips parted, then pressed together. The room felt tight, like everyone was waiting to see if she would explode or retreat. Laura's lawyer cleared his throat. Your Honor, in that case we move to withdraw the motion. The judge's eyes stayed cold. You can withdraw a motion, he said, but you cannot withdraw consequences. He turned to the clerk. The motion is dismissed. Set an order to show cause hearing regarding sanctions for bad faith filing and false assertions. Helen's face drained of color. Richard's jaw clenched hard enough to show muscle. Laura stared straight ahead, her confidence draining into something brittle and dangerous. The judge addressed Laura directly. Ms. Price, he said, if you are a named beneficiary, today's filing may have triggered forfeiture under the no contest clause. Laura snapped her head toward him. That's not fair, she said. The judge didn't argue. Fairness is not the standard, he replied. Compliance is. He turned to the man in black. Does the trustee intend to enforce the clause? Yes, Your Honor, the man answered calmly. Pending court confirmation. Laura's hands began to shake. She hid them by gripping the table. Laura looked at Emma, then, hatred sharp and unfiltered. This isn't over, she whispered. Before Emma could respond, the bailiff leaned toward the judge and spoke quietly. The judge's expression shifted, not shocked but alert. He nodded once. Mr. Price, he said, turning to Richard, remain seated. Richard froze. Why? He asked. The judge's voice stayed flat. Because there is a deputy in the hallway with paperwork for you, and it is not from this court. The courtroom doors opened again. A uniformed deputy stepped inside holding a packet with a bold header. Sir, he said to Richard, you've been served. Richard took the papers with shaking hands and skimmed the first page. His face went gray. This wasn't probate. It was criminal. The judge watched him quietly. This court has nothing to do with that matter, he said, but you are still under oath. Helen whispered, we were protecting the family. The judge replied evenly, you protected it into a referral. Emma sat motionless as the room finally understood that control had shifted, for good. Laura's lawyer stood carefully. Your Honor, he said, we request a brief recess to confer with our clients. The judge looked tired now, not of the case but of the tactics. You may confer, he said, but this motion is dismissed and the trustee will proceed. He paused, then looked at the man in the black suit. Does the trustee request any protective order? Yes, Your Honor, the man replied immediately. Given today's conduct, we request an order barring interference with trust assets and harassment of the primary beneficiary. Laura scoffed under her breath. The judge's eyes cut to her. You are not in a position to scoff, he said. Granted. Drafted. I'll sign today. Helen's voice cracked. You can't keep us from our own daughter, she said softly. The judge didn't raise his voice. You can keep yourselves from misconduct, he replied. The gavel came down. Court is recessed. As people stood, Helen moved toward Emma in the aisle, close enough for her perfume to sting. You did this, she hissed. You ruined your father. Emma met her eyes. He ruined himself, she said quietly. Laura stepped in next, voice shaking with rage. You think this makes you safe? Emma answered calmly. I think records make me safe. Laura's mouth twisted as if she wanted to scream. Outside, the air felt sharp and clean. Daniel stopped Emma on the courthouse steps. This is as clean as it gets, he said. The trust controls everything. The no contest clause is active. They can't touch the assets. Emma nodded, still absorbing it. Daniel's phone buzzed. He checked it, then frowned. We just got a security alert from Northbridge Trust, he said. Attempted access blocked. Emma's stomach tightened. Tao? She asked. Daniel nodded. Right now. The hearing was over, the order signed, and someone was already trying to move money they no longer controlled. They went straight to Daniel's office. He made 2 calls and had Emma sign a single-page instruction routing all trust communication through counsel. Minutes later, the trust officer confirmed it. An attempted login was made from a device linked to Laura Price, the officer said calmly. It failed authentication. We froze all changes. Emma closed her eyes briefly. Laura hadn't turned her phone face down out of shame. She'd done it to act. Daniel exhaled. That attempt just created a permanent record, he said. She didn't just lose control. She documented why. 2 weeks later, the court confirmed sanctions. Laura paid fees. The no contest clause was enforced. Northbridge Trust locked the estate completely. No emergencies. No shortcuts. When the confirmation email arrived, Emma sat alone at her kitchen table and read it twice. The trust would administer exactly as written. Nothing more. Nothing less. Her grandfather had planned for this moment not with speeches but with proof. Emma understood the lesson clearly now. When people try to erase you with power and stories, you don't fight back with noise. You let the record speak and then you let it stand. The sanctions order landed quietly without drama. No press. No audience. Just paperwork. Laura didn't show up for the hearing. Her lawyer did, stiff and careful, apologizing to the court in a voice that carried no confidence. The judge accepted nothing except compliance. Bad faith filings waste this court's time, he said. And intimidation dressed as concern will not be tolerated. He signed the order and looked up once. The trust's enforcement of the no contest clause is acknowledged. That sentence ended every argument Laura thought she still had. Emma wasn't there to watch. She didn't need to be. Northbridge Trust moved exactly the way it promised. Slow, precise, and unbothered by emotion. Letters went out. Accounts were locked. Titles stayed protected. Every action came with a timestamp and a receipt. When Helen called the trust office, crying, she was told politely that all communication had to go through counsel. When Richard tried to speak to a former advisor, the advisor declined and logged the attempt. No anger. No lectures. Just systems doing what systems do when people can't be trusted. Emma watched it happen from a distance and felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest. Peace. Laura tried once more. Not in court. Not directly. She sent a message through a cousin, something vague about talking like family. Daniel shut it down immediately. Do not respond, he told Emma. Every contact attempt helps us. Emma listened. A week later, the trustee filed a short declaration noting continued interference attempts and confirming forfeiture. Laura's share was gone. Not paused. Gone. Emma didn't celebrate. She just closed the document and placed it in the folder her grandfather had prepared years earlier, the one labeled simply Record. The first distribution arrived the following month. Modest. Exactly as written. No lump sum. No rush. Emma read the confirmation email slowly. Administered per trust terms. That was it. No congratulations. No commentary. She realized then that real protection doesn't feel exciting. It feels quiet. Final. That night, Emma sat at her kitchen table and replayed the courtroom in her mind. Not the accusations, not the anger, but the moment the envelope changed hands. That was when power shifted. Not when voices rose, but when proof arrived. Emma didn't attend any family gatherings after that. She didn't announce boundaries. She didn't explain herself. The trust didn't require her to. Months later, when a distant relative asked how she won, Emma answered honestly. I didn't, she said. I just stopped letting lies move faster than documents. The story didn't end with forgiveness or reconciliation. It ended with order. With records that couldn't be bullied. And with a lesson her grandfather understood better than anyone else. When people plan to take from you, the strongest answer isn't resistance. It's preparation. The criminal matter moved on a separate track, quiet but heavy. Emma didn't ask for updates. She didn't need details to know it was real. The subpoenas spoke for themselves. Friends stopped asking questions after they realized there would be no dramatic reversal, no family sit-down that fixed everything. Laura disappeared from view, not humbled, cornered. Emma understood the difference. Humility asks for repair. Being cornered looks for exits. She stayed out of the way and let the process do what it was designed to do. Systems don't get tired. People do. Months passed. Northbridge Trust sent quarterly statements like clockwork. No commentary. No emotion. Just numbers, confirmations, and signatures. The house remained protected. Titles stayed clean. Emma learned to read the language the way her grandfather had, carefully without projecting hope or fear into it. One afternoon she found his old notebook again. Inside was a single line he'd underlined twice. Plan for who people become under pressure, not who they say they are. She closed the notebook and felt the truth of it settle. Laura tried once more indirectly. A mutual acquaintance mentioned closure, the word people use when they want access without accountability. Emma declined. No speech. No explanation. Daniel later forwarded a brief update. The court had confirmed the trustee's declaration in full. Forfeiture stood. Interference orders remained. The file was closed. Emma replied with one word, received. That was all the system required. Anything more would have been noise. On the anniversary of her grandfather's death, Emma visited the cemetery alone. She didn't talk about courtrooms or clauses. She talked about mornings and coffee and the way he'd taught her to listen more than she spoke. She thanked him, not for the inheritance but for the restraint. For choosing records over reactions. For trusting institutions to do what families sometimes won't. When she left, she felt lighter not because the past was forgiven, but because it no longer chased her. The story didn't end with applause or reconciliation. It ended with something stronger, finality. The trust stood. The court records stood. The attempts to rewrite history failed because history had been documented before anyone could distort it. Emma went home, closed the folder labeled record and placed it on the shelf where it belonged. When people later asked how she survived her family, she gave the simplest answer. I didn't fight them, she said. I let the truth arrive on time and I let it stay.